Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about this cover. Now this cover has a lot of intrigue and it's very, very interesting. As a stamp collector, this letter seemingly has no value. It's missing a stamp. But wait, is it worthless or should we look into it further? Stay tuned for this episode of But first, I would like to give a compliment to the British Philatelic Traders Society. Last weekend, they had a round table as a part of the virtual Stampex, and the round tables were very, very successful. I hosted the round table, and many people could join. There were a limited amount of seats available, and was on a first-come, first-served basis. And I managed to join into about 3 of them, and I thoroughly enjoyed the discussions. There were open discussions. There was one about how AI can help us in our stamp collecting, and was very, very interesting. Thank you very much. Now, let's talk a little bit about the cover that I mentioned. Now, this letter was written to a woman by the name of Sarah Kalach. Now, Sarah Kalach was born in 1928 in Tzfat, and she belonged to a very, very, very old Tzfat family. Now, as a child, Sarah joined Etzel. Etzel means Irgun Tzvai Leumi in Hebrew. In English, it can probably be translated something like the National Military Organization. Before the state, obviously, the British were in control of what was called the British Mandate for Palestine, which afterwards became Israel. And the IZL group or Irgun Tzvai Leumi was labeled by the British as a terrorist organization. And guerrilla warfare is an action taken against basically military targets, while terrorism is practiced against civilian targets. But the British labeled the Etzel as a terrorist organization, and they were out to get everybody. Now, Sarah Kalach, she got word, she was living in Haifa, and she got word that they were going to, that the British authorities were looking for her. So she moved to Tel Aviv. And after about a year, she moved back to Haifa to take care of the branch there, because many of her colleagues had been taken prison already. In June of 1946, the Etzel group took part in the King David Hotel bombing. Now, the British obviously saw that as a terrorist act, but the Etzel group said that it was because that was the British headquarters, and as far as they were concerned, it was an acceptable target. Now, after this, the British started to crack down big time on these members. And as I said before, in those days, Sarah was living in Haifa, and somebody told on her. They informed the British CID, the Criminal Investigation Department. And the person's name, apparently from what I've seen, his name was Heinz Reinhold. And he actually told them exactly where to find Sarah. And on 29th of October, the British authorities raided the apartment and took her and her brother Shlomo into captivity. Shlomo was actually expelled to Africa, to a detention camp in Kenya, where he remained until after the independence had been declared. Sarah, on the other hand, was sent to a women's detention camp in Bethlehem. And we can see that this letter was sent while she was in that woman's camp. And we can see that from the purple writing here. She was then moved to Atlit. She was imprisoned, but she was let go along with other women prisoners in about March of 1948, not long before the British left the British Mandate for Palestine. So don't worry about her. She got married in 1952. She changed her name to Medallion, and she's had children and grandchildren. So let's get back to the letter. It was written to Sarah in 1947 when she was in the detention camp, and it was written to by her father, whose name was Yaakov, or they also called him Yankele. Now, the British CID removed the stamp. Why did they remove the stamp? Because they suspected that messages were written on the back of the stamp. Now, this practice had been in use by the British themselves during the Second World War. So they knew the practice. And they were making sure that the messages sent to Sarah didn't bypass the censor. And that's the story. Take a simple letter, which you know nothing about, that most people would throw away. I would have if I didn't have the knowledge of history, and it turns it into a lovely story for the day. Before I sign off, next weekend I'm going to IBRA, the 2023 International Stamp Exhibition that is in Essen in Germany. As I'm there, I will be exhibiting there. Come and say hello to me and say, I saw you on YouTube. Take care. See you next time.